Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from Johan Promotions is Johan Jr. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
James, thanks very much for having me. A pleasure to be here.
So what is Johan Promotions?
Well, we're a 50-year-old company based just outside of Philadelphia. You know, our primary business is that we are the distributor for pay-per-view and pay sports and entertainment programming to bars and restaurants, casinos, any kind of a out-of-home or public viewing location in the United States.
So in other words, more so for the restaurants and the businesses than for the listeners at their houses.
Yeah, exactly. I describe it this way to people. If you and I wanted to go watch a big Mayweather fight, we'd go to your house and we might want to order the event on either satellite or cable or streaming. And, they would charge us $70 to watch the event. But a lot of bars and restaurants show these events also. And those bars and restaurants have to have a license to sign it. And they get that license to show it through Johan Promotion.
Oh, nice. And a lot of times those bars or restaurants, the listeners will be able to go there for free or, a cover charge.
Yeah, absolutely. We leave that up to the discretion of the bar owner to decide what their, offer is going to be. Very, very often it is just, an event that they buy and they're trying to drive, traffic into their location and have their customers spend, money on food and drink, just like they would if they had a band or a comedian come in or somebody like that, some entertainment. And then some other restaurants choose to, as we call it, a forced spend. They charge a minimum to come in, but sometimes that $20 cover charge, might include, some food and drink, and therefore people aren't coming in and sitting at a table and drinking water for, 4 hours or something like that.
Good point. Yeah, because I was going to say, I know some frugal people that would just do that. They would water and bread. So how did you get it started back in 1971?
Well, in 1971, my dad was a police officer in the city of Philadelphia, and he read an article in the newspaper about a group of businessmen that were pooling their money together to start a company called Cloverlay. That company, Cloverlay's purpose was they were going to manage the boxing career of a fighter by the name of Joe Frazier. Joe at that time was coming back from the Olympics. He had broken his thumb, and they thought he was a pretty good fighter, and he was from Philadelphia, and they thought it would be pretty cool to own their own fighter. And at that time, there were no big television contracts that the fighters would sign when they returned and stuff like that from the Olympics. So Joe became basically an employee of Cloverlay. My dad read the article in the newspaper. He wrote to the principal people that had started the company and asked if they would give him the opportunity to invest. They did. He had to go to the next board meeting, bring $500. He did not have the money. He had to borrow the $500, and he showed up, and that allowed him to buy 2 shares of stock, and he formally became a shareholder in Cloverlay. Well, as time would go by, Joe's career started to blossom. The responsibilities of Cloverlay became a lot bigger, and they were looking for somebody to run the company for them and basically become the manager of Cloverlay. And my dad, just being a hustling guy and having bills to pay just like everybody else and trying to supplement his police officers' pay, he said, let me be the manager of the business. And he did. And during that time, he saw an opportunity for the whole industry to start to be able to show these fights on closed-circuit TV. And for anybody that's out there that's listening and remembers in the old days, you would go and buy a ticket at a movie theater or at a high school gym or at an arena, and they would throw up a big giant screen and they would broadcast the fights on closed-circuit TV, and that became another revenue stream, for the Cloverlay organization and really for the whole boxing industry. So at that point, they kind of forced my dad to start Johan Promotions and to start this business. And so reluctantly he did. So now He's a police officer. He's the business manager for Clover Lake, and now he's the owner and manager and operator of Johan Promotions, all in his early 30s. And he said that, on March the 8th, 1971, he finds himself standing at ringside at Madison Square Garden after Joe Frazier beats what some people call the greatest fighter of all time, Muhammad Ali. And my dad is his manager and is really sitting on top of the world.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
that's how the company got started.
Yeah, that must have been an amazing experience to be a part of all that. Obviously, extremely busy, having those three occupations plus being a dad. I mean, that he must have felt like he was pulled in 10 different directions.
Well, James, it's a great observation. And what ended up happening was at the age of 38, my dad had a massive heart attack. And he was really, really sick for a number of years. And at that time, that was around, 1980 when I was just graduating from college. And so my dad said to me, what are you going to do for a job? I was getting married and didn't have much money and didn't really think about all that as being kind of young, dumb, and stupid. So he said, I'll tell you what, I want to make a deal for you. I want to make you my partner on a fight we have coming up. And I'm going to coach you on what to do because I'm just not well enough to kind of do the whole event. So I said, well, I was playing basketball at the time. I was a basketball player in college. I had gotten drafted by the Sixers and went to rookie camp for 3 days. And I wanted to go overseas and play basketball. So I said, look, this is my dad asking, all right, Dad, I'm going to do this one fight with you. And then that's going to be it. And the very first fight that I did was the Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran first fight. And I got to just tell you, it was really, really successful. And when the event was over, my dad came into the office, and a couple of days after the fight, and he gave me an envelope, and there was a check in there with a lot of money in it. And I was like, what's this for? And he goes, well, this is your part of the promotion. I was like, wow, all right. He goes, I told you we're my partner, so, that's what your share is. And I said, all right, well, thanks so much. And he goes, well, look, they're going to do a rematch in November. Would you like to do the rematch? And I looked at the check, and I was like, all right, one more fight I'm going to do, but that's like it. And here it is 42 years later. I never left, and he's been the greatest mentor and partner you could ever ask for. And he's 85 years old, still comes into the office every day, loves this business. And, I think he's really proud of, what he's ended up building here and gets to see that every day and gets to come to work with his son every day, which I guess is kind of fun. I know that would be for me.
That is awesome. Yeah, we love having companies on our show that are family-based, and it sounds like you guys are definitely family-based and very strong bond. I love how the fact that you bring communities together. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, what I like to tell people is, I think we've been relevant as a business because what we do is when we sell these events to the bars and restaurants that we do, it gives people an opportunity to gather together as communities and have these watch parties where they can, sit and talk with their neighbor or their friend and, they can, excuse me one second, they can end up just getting the opportunity to talk with, people in their community that like boxing or like the events that we're showing. Listen, in Philadelphia right now where we're based, there isn't a better community experience than the World Series that's going on, that's for sure. So we're really, that's what we kind of do, and that's what we offer and make these events what I call community watch parties.
That is awesome. We think that's great that, like you said, just bringing those communities together. And then I understand you have some really great content partners. Who are your great content partners?
So I'll tell you the one thing that's happening to us now is we are going through a transitional period right now where streaming is becoming so much a part of our business. Whenever you take a look at the 50-year history of our company, technology was always one of the things that drove change in our industry. Right now, we're going through change. So when we're going through this change and adopting streaming into our business, it's allowing us some new partners. One of those is ESPN Plus. We are now offering that exclusively to the out-of-home market. which is a fantastic product. One of our top products, and it has been for 21 years, is the UFC. We're the exclusive distributor for the UFC. We are also working with companies in the boxing industry like Top Rank, PBC, which is Premier Boxing Championship. We're working with another streaming partner called DAZN. That's DAZN, and you probably see that being talked about in the sports world. WWE, AEW, PGA Tour Live. Our lineup is, some of the best and biggest sports and media companies in the world right now. So we're very proud of that, and would like to think that we do an outstanding job in taking that product that those particular clients are offering to the, commercial space.
Yeah, that is great. Like you said, I mean, the top companies in the world of sports today are going through you guys. I mean, it doesn't get any better. It really doesn't. And then another thing I really am impressed with, I understand that you're very philanthropic, that there is a boxing gym and a computer lab that you've donated to the community.
It is. I mentioned earlier that my dad was a police officer in the city of Philadelphia. When he had the heart attack, he had only been working on the force for 18 years. But my mom was a police officer in the city of Philadelphia, and she was on the force for 23 years. So what ended up happening in our house when we were growing up, and I think it continues now, although both my parents are obviously retired, I have been taught that, having community youth centers in the areas where they're most needed are something that helps the communities where you run those programs. And so we've had the Joe Hand Boxing Gym in existence for about 25 years. And that got started because my parents encouraged their family to do something to give back to the community. We recently moved out of Philadelphia to a suburban location where we have our corporate headquarters. And at our new facility, we have 25,000 square feet, of which 5,000 square feet of it is the new Joe Hand Gym. And we christened it on March the 8th, 2021, the 50th anniversary of the Ali Frazier fight. And in our gym, we have two bronze statues that stand 10 foot tall each, one of Muhammad Ali and one of Joe Frazier. And they're right in the entranceway when you come in, and they're also visible to the passersby. But our boxing gym really serves a couple of purposes. We are open to the youth in our community. We run a program for people with Parkinson's disease, and we also have a program in there for people that are veterans that are, in our immediate area. So we clearly have a program here that what we're doing is offering things to people, in the community because it's our way of the Hand family trying to give back.
That is amazing. We love companies that give back. And then we want to know, what are some of the places in our area in Ohio that our listeners can go and view a Joe Hand promotion?
So, I was a question I knew you might ask, and I will say this to you. Rather than tell you like, hey, here's a list of the locations, what the best thing that anybody could do is they could visit the Joe Hand Promotions website. It's joehandpromotions.com. And there is a link at the top of the page called Bar Finder. And if any of the listeners out there want to know a particular event, whether it's, a boxing event, a UFC event, anything like that, what will happen is you can put in your area code, your city and state, and it will pop up the closest locations to your area with a 35-mile radius. So that's the best way that anybody could find out, where they could go watch an event in their particular area.
Well, it sounds great, Joe. It has been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Well, James, thanks so much. I always enjoy telling the Joe Hand story. It's always fun to do that. We're always looking forward to bringing events to the people in your community.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, James. Have a great day.
Black Friday prices now available at Appliance Factory. Save up to 40 to 80% on thousands of in-stock appliances and mattresses. Largest inventory in Ohio, Appliance Factory gets exclusive factory buys from manufacturers at huge discounts, and they pass the savings on to you. Guaranteed to beat Lowe's and Home Depot's Black Friday sale prices. Save up to 40 to 80% on GE, Maytag, KitchenAid, Bosch, all the major brands. Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has inventory. They have all the best selections on Purple, Dream Cloud, Tempur-Pedic, Sealy, unbeatable savings. Black Friday prices now at Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom. Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us from the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. If not the oldest name in wrestling, one of the oldest names in wrestling, the NWA. Our guest today is Joey Galli. Joe Galli, thank you for joining us today.
I was about to say, it sounds like I'm talking to my grandmother here, little Joey. You're bringing me back to my childhood. I love it. Making me feel younger. Actually, I appreciate it at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did the same thing last week with one of the Impractical Jokers was a guest on the show, and I added the Y part on there for some reason. So, how did you get started in professional wrestling?
Well, pretty much everybody in professional wrestling, for the most part, you start as a fan as a child. I remember, I'm of the age when SmackDown was going to first air on UPN, and that was a big deal for me. Because I went to school and I was, kind of a lower middle class kid. We didn't have cable like a lot of my friends did. And they were all watching Raw. And, this is Raw, height of its powers, Rock, Undertaker, Stone Cold, yada, yada. And, I never got to watch it because I didn't have the cable station for it. But eventually SmackDown came on UPN. And I remember watching it, and laying on the floor of my living room while my dad's, passed out on the couch after working a construction job all day. And that was sort of my introduction to pro wrestling was there. And it just kind of grew from there. And I had a group of friends in high school, and we did all the backyard wrestling stuff that they tell you not to do, but you do it anyways. And you shouldn't do it, folks. People got concussions. It wasn't good. Even if you rent a bounce house, like the little bouncy castles for kids, you can still get hurt in those,
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you don't know what you're doing. But later on in college, I had a friend of mine who's still a very good friend of mine. He's going to be the best man at my wedding, Brandon Taylor, who wrestles under the name Robert Baines. He currently works in the office for the Los Angeles version of Los Angeles chapter of New Japan. But he found an ad in a paper, and it's again dating how old I am, and it said there's a coupon for 2-for-1 first wrestling school class. It was this new wrestling school that was in Van Nuys. And he was like, you want to go? And I was like, sure, why not? And it's like, I didn't think anything was going to come of it, but it's like just that first introduction to it and taking some bumps and talking about actually being in the sport profession, I just got hooked immediately. It was heroin, just one hit and I was in. So from then it just kind of grew, and, I was just your standard independent wrestler working, my old broadcast partner, Jim Cornette would call them outlaw mud shows. I'm working all those in the Southern California area. But eventually I transitioned into broadcasting. I started as a television reporter. And so that kind of helped hone my skills with a microphone. And I was able to transition that eventually into doing commentary, which is great because, you're still working the show. You're still in the environment of professional wrestling. And you don't have to fall on your neck, which is great. But I really love my position that I have, especially with the NWA, and being able to be the sort of the captain steering the ship and the stories that we're telling that's there. And so I'm certainly blessed to be where I am.
Exactly. That has got to be awesome. Living the dream, being a part of the NWA, not just a part, but like you said, you're the storyteller, you're the one that people go to know what's going on with the organization. And then you mentioned Jim Cornette. We've had the pleasure of having him on the show before. He certainly is a character and definitely has his opinions. He's either one way or another with you, and you know where he stands, which is awesome.
You know, it's one of those things. He's a controversial figure, so it shouldn't be surprising when he says controversial things. But I will tell you that the time that I did work with him, I feel like I learned a lot, and he was able to teach me a lot from that perspective of not just being an on-air presence and an on-air, like a character, but also all the other machinations that come around with, like, just, you know, it was so fascinating for me to see him in the back, you know, talking with some of the guys, you know, that maybe were just having a tag team match, but they weren't an established tag team. So they went to him for, you know, some advice on how to put the match together. And he's this encyclopedia of professional wrestling, and he knows how to keep it simple and make it to where there's a good match that can happen that'll tell a good story that people will be interested in. And so I think you got to give him a lot of credit for that. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who passionately hate Jim Cornette the last 30 years being a controversial figure. It shouldn't surprise him when he says controversial things. So
Exactly.
You know, I wish the best for him. I know he's doing great with his podcast. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, the numbers he gets on that thing are just ridiculous. Yeah, I was going to say he brags about how he actually gets better numbers than some of the wrestling shows.
You know, it's entirely possible that he does. And I think I also think that kind of shows the interest that people have in, you know, the way wrestling used to be and the nostalgia factor that people have for wrestling in the earlier days, because he's having conversations about stuff that happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that's a lot of the stuff that people are seeing on, like, Vice. That's a lot of the stuff that people are seeing through that sort of programming with Tales of the Territory. So there's all that interest, you know, for that old school style wrestling. And I think that's where the NWA really succeeds, is because we kind of have that as a nice format. You know, we could go and we could, you know, try to sell out 8,000 seat arenas, you know, that typically do basketball or whatever. Or we could take a much more cost effective approach and model ourselves after studio wrestling to make a good television product, because you can only fit so many people into a stadium, right? But theoretically, if you get something on the air or on the internet, you could have billions of people watch it. So why not put all of your resources or most of your resources towards that part of the product? And so that's kind of where we've been able to really succeed in the NWA, is taking what was super successful in the 70s and 80s and the territory days and just changing the model slightly so that it fits into the digital world that we live in today. And that's why we're having such great things. We're having the, you know, big show down in New Orleans. We're going to be making some really big announcements on that pay-per-view as to what people are going to expect to see in 2023. And so there is this appetite for professional wrestling as the older generation remembers it, and as the younger generation has come to see it and find it through things like YouTube, or even going on Peacock or the WWE Network and going back and seeing some of the stuff that maybe they weren't able to see because they were just born in the wrong generation, or they were perhaps born in the wrong territory and you weren't able to see what was going on. So I think that that's really great that we're at this point in professional wrestling where there's this space where so much wrestling can not only exist, but be profitable and be good for the fans. Because that's what it really comes down to. You don't have the fans, there's no business there. So you have to give people something. You have to give them what they want. And we've found a very special niche where we're giving them what they want in a way that's different than the other companies.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the main thing that you're giving them that the other companies don't give is you're actually giving wrestling, where the other companies, a lot of them don't do wrestling a lot on their, they'll do an hour or 2 hour shows and they'll have 10 minutes of wrestling in the show, and it just baffles you where, you know, they're all soap opera and you guys are all about substance with, you know, stars like Trevor Murdoch and JTG. And I mean, you just got some talented wrestlers, which make a world of difference. So I think it's great. Now, where can people watch NWA Power and NWA USA?
Well, you know, what's great is there's actually a few options for people. You know, everybody wants to be the first to see something. And so we have sort of what would be called a premium package through Fight TV, you know, and people can watch us Tuesdays at 6:05 Eastern through that. But we're also cognizant that we live in a world where, you know, $5 a month is a lot to some people, and we don't want to alienate those folks. So we're available on YouTube. It just comes out later. You just wait till Friday. NWA Power comes out, and and it's on YouTube for the whole world to see. And then Saturday mornings at noon Eastern, we're on NWA USA, or NWSA is on YouTube and on Fight simultaneously. So there's multiple avenues for people to watch it, and you can watch it for free if you want. And then on top of that, Fight TV is also our pay-per-view provider. So if you want to watch Hard Times 3, Hard Times in New Orleans, you can purchase the pay-per-view through them as well. And it's actually a pretty successful model. You know, Fight TV's had a lot of other wrestling companies that come through. I know a lot of people probably watch a lot of New Japan programming through that platform, or a lot of AAA through that platform. So it's a good place for us to be, and it's easy. And the thing that I like about it most is most people have smart TV, and you can get an app on there. You can do everything through the app, and you're just watching it as though, you know, you had a standard pay-per-view that you bought through your cable provider.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say, you have been a pleasure having you on the show. I mean, I have so much that I want to ask you about that we're not even going to get to. I want to ask about that hardcore team war, the NWA World Championship match. I mean, there are just so many great matches at Hard Times. Plus, also, when we say Hard Times, shouldn't we be saying it with a bit of a lisp? Yeah, Hard Times,
I think Hard Times, Daddy. Yeah, absolutely. Hard Times, Daddy. And I think that I will probably dive into that a little bit when we, at least when we open the show. I know I have for the past, you know, Hard Times. You know, this is the third time we've had a pay-per-view branded with Hard Times. And that, once again, kind of just shows the success that we're having in the NWA and the success that we have with this particular pay-per-view and what our fans expect to see. And it kind of elevates us. You know, there's a lot of stuff. You know, we have our anniversary show, which is fine. We also have the Crockett Cup, which, of course, is a ton of history back to Jim Crockett Promotions. But really the Hard Times pay-per-view is one of the, you know, core pay-per-views that we have in the NWA that was sort of built and made in the Lightning One era, the era which was, you know, was purchased by Billy Corgan. So it's really exciting for us to have that third one and potentially be able to continue that on, because, you know, at a certain point, those numbers really matter, don't they? When you see WrestleMania 10 and WrestleMania 20 and all that other sort of stuff, and you start to see how it can evolve over the years, those numbers really start to kick in. And having a third anniversary, I mean, it's great. And then on top of that, you know, we're in partnership with Wildcat Pro Wrestling out of New Orleans, which is run by Luke and PJ Hawks. They're having the Revolution Rumble, which is, I believe, their 13th anniversary, and big anniversary show, and that next day. So a lot of people are going to be able to see a lot of that talent from the, you know, the Louisiana, Texas area come onto our NWA programming over the next several episodes of NWA Power and NWA USA as well. So it's kind of great that we're able to find these partnerships with the people that we already work with and expand our footprint into other places. You know, typically we've been running in Atlanta and Nashville and Charlotte for the most part, but for us to be able to expand to places like New Orleans and potentially go into other places, whether it's going to be Florida next year or it's going to be Texas or the Northeast or even the West Coast, you know, we're finding these partnerships that make it a lot easier for us. And also it helps bring in an also built-in fan base. You know, all those people that love watching Wildcat sports, you know, they're going to come to the show too. So it's great that we have all these partnerships and that we're able to grow, you know, not just as the NWA, but really as throughout the entire sport of professional wrestling, especially on the independent scene.
Exactly. And then one of the other companies that you are partnering with, I see on there, you have the MLW National Openweight Championship, which is funny because I should have had the National Openweight Champion on last week, Alex Kane, but he lost to Davey Richards, who will be at your upcoming event.
You know, it's really exciting. You know, it's great that we're able to have these partnerships. And it was just a few weeks back that Camille and Taya Valkyrie had another match, but this time it was, you know, for Triple Mania. And so, and we have to keep in mind also our World Tag Team Champions, La Rebellion, have an enormous history, and they do so much work for Mexican promotions as well. And, you know, we like to have these partnerships, and we've had them, you know, really throughout the entire time that this has been the Lightning One era of the NWA. And so we were able to have some of the best wrestlers from these different organizations come in. And when you look at a guy like Davey Richards, I mean, former ROH champion, current MLW openweight champion, and he's going up against the guy who's really a second-generation star in Colby Carino. His father, Steve Carino, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And Colby Carino's made it very clear in interviews that he's done is this is a dream match for him. You know, when he was little and his dad was bringing him to shows, one of the guys that inspired him to follow in his dad's first footsteps wasn't just his father, but also was Davey Richards. So this is the first time that that's ever happened. So he's really looking forward to that match, and talk about the stakes that he has there, where he could potentially become a champion of another organization. So I want to thank MLW for allowing us to be able to have that sort of partnership and have enough faith that they know the platform that we're going to put that championship on. You know what I mean? Because you could take a championship anywhere, but you start taking it to places that it's not going to look so good. How does it make your championship look? So if we have any champions that are going to come in and they're going to risk the strap on our programming, we want to make sure that it's at the highest level possible. And I think that that's what people are going to see when they watch Hard Times 3 live on pay-per-view November 12th on Fight TV.
Awesome. So, Joe, before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can we learn more about the NWA?
Well, you can find me on social media. I'm on Twitter at Joe Galli News. That's from my old journalism background. Maybe I should change it. I'll ask Elon. Maybe he can hook me up with a different name. And then you can find me on Instagram at Joe Galli. Also, if I'm in the mood to plug in things, I'm going to plug another thing that we've recently started, and that's called 33 with William Patrick Corgan. It is a very special Smashing Pumpkins podcast that we do weekly, where we have a world premiere of a brand new song from the Smashing Pumpkins from their upcoming rock opera concept album Autumn. That's going to be available in spring. But you can hear all the songs first on this new podcast, 33 with William Patrick Corgan. We also have some pretty incredible guests that come by. So if you have any interest in not just the Smashing Pumpkins, but really in the world of music, art, culture, we have some, great literary minds. Adam Lair is one of our recent guests. We also have Willow Smith is one of our guests that comes on, Tegan and Sarah. So we get a lot of cool people there. So if you folks are not only interested in wrestling, but also interested in music and things going on in the world and want to see, this brand new music that's going to be coming out, I highly recommend you come on to our podcast that I do with Billy Corgan and our broadcast partner in the NWA, Kyle Davis, is also a co-host on the show.
Sounds awesome. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
I love being here. I'll come back anytime.
Appliance Factory in Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today, or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from Maple Landmark Woodcraft is Andrew Rainville. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
So what is Maple Landmark Woodcraft?
Maple Landmark is a wood products manufacturing company in Vermont, Middlebury, Vermont. We make wooden toys, games, gifts, decor, all kinds of other custom things. Basically smaller things. If you can dream it up, usually we can make it.
That is so cool. So how did it all get started?
It was actually started by my dad when he was in high school. My grandmother gave him a piece of wood, a sanding block, a coping saw, and told him to do something once his homework was done. And so he started experimenting with that. Started making like cribbage boards and spool holders, that sort of thing, and it just kind of grew from there. So 1979 to today, we've had a little over 40 years of progression.
That is awesome. So a family-owned and operated business in the States, all the products are made in the States. That is phenomenal.
Making things in Vermont and the U.S. is pretty important to us. It's something that we're very committed to doing, so yeah, that's a key part to who we are and what we do.
So what products do you make?
A lot of people know us for our name trains, these little train letter cars. That's a quite extensive line from the letters to the track and scenery, all kinds of other things. But we also make classic wooden games. So you're talking, we still make cribbage boards, Chinese checkers, mancala. We do all kinds of decor, decorative blocks, wind spinners, and all sorts of other things, including like wine boxes. So we make 12 to 1,500 different products, so there's a lot of things to choose from, and there's truly something for everybody.
Exactly. I mean, heck, if it's made out of wood, it sounds like you guys can make it.
That is very true. That is very true.
Nice. So what customizable products? I mean, are all of the products customizable, or is it just the majority of them?
There are certain things that are customizable, and there are things like the name trains where you pick out the letters that you need for a child's name, so that is inherently customizable. But for example, we can engrave on the engines with the message, happy first birthday, third birthday, whatever. And then we have other things like name puzzles where, again, those are based on the name of the child. We can engrave on yo-yos, train whistles. There's all sorts of little customization things that we can do.
And of course, with the holidays coming up, the thing that I think you guys are amazing at is your Christmas ornaments. You made some great Christmas ornaments for the Dream House and Appliance Factory. One side has the Dream House on it, the other side has our sponsor, the Appliance Factory, and they look amazing. We are excited about decorating the Appliance Factory showroom with those and think they're going to be amazing, going to be a big hit. People are going to be asking about them, and we're going to be sending them your way. So we are very excited about the quality of them. Just with the laser, I guess, that you use to carve in there, I mean, it looks just amazing.
Yeah, those are laser engraved and actually cut out on the laser as well. It's the same machine. We do love the ornaments. These specifically are a great sort of classic look. We actually have about 5 or 6 different types of ornaments that people can shop from on our website. So there's a lot of choices for ornaments if you're looking to decorate your Christmas tree or give a little token gift to someone. Our ornaments are a great choice for that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say, shoot, like a family logo or something would look awesome on there. Give them out to the entire family. That way everyone has that matching ornament. And it's just, one of those keepsakes that really means something because it's from the heart and it's made in America.
Yes, it is a great gift for all those reasons.
So how do you make your products safely?
Yes, there's a few ways. First of all, we've been in this business for quite a while, as I mentioned earlier, so we generally have a good idea of what's going to be safe. So we have that as a starting point. And then before we bring a product to market, we actually do a lot of rigorous internal testing to be sure that it's up to our standards for safety. And then we do third-party testing where we send it to a lab and they test it. We have no affiliation with them, so they give us an honest report, say, hey, this thing broke, or, that finish isn't good, and we go back and we rework it until it is something that is safe for the end consumer, and for children to have in their hands.
That is awesome. So where is the best place for the Dream House Nation to buy your products?
If you head over to maplelandmark.com, that's the best place to shop around, see what you can find. I would encourage people to really browse through our website. Like I said, we have a lot of products, so there's a lot of things to choose from. There's some things on special. There's a page for new products, all sorts of things. So really investigate through that, and you'll see a bunch of things you'll love.
Now, one of the things I love is that's not the only place to buy your products. It's the best place. I agree with you because, shoot, why not go get them directly from you? But the people in Ohio, I understand there's some locations that sell your products.
Yep. So we actually sell to stores all over the country. So if you're traveling, I'm sure you can find our stuff somewhere. But yes, in Ohio, we sell to a few different stores. We've got like Blue Marble Books and Blue Turtle Toys, Wild Birds Unlimited, some other ones. And actually what listeners can do is go to our website, and on there in the About Us section is dealer locations, and that'll pull up a map, and you can zoom in and see what's directly around you, and find a local store that carries our product. Not all stores carry everything. In fact, no store carries everything. So if you're looking for something in particular, you'll want to contact them. But you'll be able to see where you can find Maple Landmark products near you.
Awesome. Now, we've talked about the laser engraving, which I am extremely impressed by, but you've also incorporated that and pad printing into your products. Tell us about that.
We actually have a few different types of graphics applications, to put it broadly. So you mentioned the laser engraving, which is essentially using focused light to engrave into the wood. So it maintains the wood feel. It's just a darker darker visual. We also have, as you mentioned, pad printing. That tends to be more single color sorts of things. We don't do as much of that anymore, but that has actually been more replaced by inkjet printing, which is similar to an inkjet printer that you might have at home. It just prints on wood. So we can do all kinds of colors, every color you could imagine, and white as well. So a lot of our products that have these pretty intricate graphics are done on the printer. And we've actually been doing that since about 2007, 2008, and have really been leaning into that more recently. So you'll be able to see a lot of that printing in our products today.
Now, I'm thinking a large part of this answer is because they're made of wood, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. What makes your products eco-friendly?
Well, yes, as you mentioned, wood. Because wood is a renewable resource, then we work with lumber mills who are sustainably harvesting the wood and that sort of thing. So we're not clear cutting or anything like that. That's a big concern, of course. But wood is an eco-friendly material to be using, which, when done correctly, which we make every effort to do. But also, our toys and games and gifts and everything really are designed to last for a long time. So it's not a purchase it and throw it away in a few weeks or months or whatever. These things are going to last a while. So you don't need to be going out and purchasing more stuff and more stuff. It's designed so that they'll actually be passed down through the generations, so there's less waste.
So like a family heirloom.
Exactly.
Nice. Now, what species of wood do you use?
Well, by our name, we use a lot of maple, as you might imagine. The name trains that I've been mentioning, those are all made out of maple. But we also use pine, cherry, oak, birch plywood, and a number of other types of species depending on what the product is. Those tend to be more custom jobs, people looking for us to use a specific type of wood. But the big ones are, maple, pine, cherry, that sort of thing.
Nice. And then one of the other things I really like about your company is you have educational aspects to your toys. Tell us about those.
We have actually a whole bunch of products that are specifically educational. There's a whole page for that on our website, so you can just search educational in our little search bar, and that page will come up. And that'll get into things like numbers and shapes and colors. But really, what's true across all of our toys is there's motor skills involved and just general manipulation and how things go together and learning through doing. It's not a screen, there's no batteries, no electronics, no nothing like that. It's just simple play that really give a child the experience of working with their hands and doing things in the real world instead of in the digital world.
So why do your products make such great holiday presents?
I think because they're unexpected in a way, in that, unfortunately, not enough people know about us, so you wouldn't necessarily expect a wooden toy to be sitting under that tree. But it's the kind of thing where no one's expecting it, but everybody wants it. You open that up on Christmas morning, it's really appreciated for what it is, and it's not a throwaway gift. It's something that you can tell is well made and will last a long time. And so that makes a good present because it's very unique and very special.
And then what are the benefits of shopping with a family-owned company?
Well, we don't have a big corporate office. We don't have investors and shareholders and all this. It is truly just between 40 and 45 employees here in Vermont just making safe, good wooden products. So there is no, bigger corporate scheme, if you will. It's supporting a local Vermont business.
That is awesome. And before we let you go, we want to know where on social media, where on the web, where can we find out more about Maple Landmark Wooden Crafts?
Absolutely. So obviously our website, as I mentioned, was maplelandmark.com. And then you can also find us on Facebook, Maple Landmark Woodcraft, or on Instagram at Maple Landmark. We're active on both of those. We love it when people tag us in things. So if you order our product and you post a picture, tag us in it, we'll be happy to see that. And then again, you can shop for our products at maplelandmark.com.
That is awesome. Andrew, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Black Friday prices now available at Appliance Factory. Save up to 40 to 80% on thousands of in-stock appliances and mattresses. Largest inventory in Ohio, Appliance Factory gets exclusive factory buys from manufacturers at huge discounts, and they pass the savings on to you. Guaranteed to beat Lowe's and Home Depot's Black Friday sale prices. Save up to 40 to 80% on GE, Maytag, KitchenAid, Bosch, all the major brands. Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has inventory. They have all the best selections on Purple, Dream Cloud, Tempur-Pedic, Sealy, unbeatable savings. Black Friday prices now at Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom.
Good morning, Dreamhouse Nation. James Lewis of TDH joining us today from Mad Shelley Comics is Richard T. Wilson. Richard, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, James. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. What is Mad Shelley Comics?
Mad Shelley Comics. It basically was born out of a film company that I started called Mad Shelley Films that did some horror films. We did a film called The Halloween Girl. Oh, geez, like now about 7 years back. Did very well. We did a spin-off series called Under the Flowers, a web series, which did very well. And then but I couldn't really tell the stories in the way that I wanted to with the budgets that we had. So I just decided to investigate something I've always loved, graphic novels, and Mad Shelley Comics was born, and we did an adaptation series of The Halloween Girl and some of the Under the Flowers characters. So I feel much more, I feel the stories are basically better told in this format. Not that the films weren't good, but we just had limited resources. We could only go so far. So that's how Mad Shelley Comics got started.
Definitely. I know what you mean when you're doing the special effects and the graphics and all that. The comic books really bring it out much better. Yes,
absolutely. And you can just go places. It's a more intimate form. It really kind of like it involves the reader kind of in a creative way, in a way that I don't feel film does. When you're sitting there reading the book, you're part of it, and it's a different, I can't even put it into words, but I just think it's a much more intimate art form. So
exactly. No, I agree with you. I mean, that's the reason why comic book fans are so much more passionate about their characters than just regular movie going fans.
I totally agree. I completely agree. And it's a great audience to have because, again, everybody who has really responded really well, because we started out before the book came out a couple weeks ago. Over the last year, we've been releasing the first 4 chapters as digital downloads on Amazon. And they've been really, the response has been terrific. And everybody's, again, if they like you, they really like you, and that's a wonderful thing. So I had a really good feeling going into the rollout for the book, knowing that we had such, we had a growing fan base behind us that was like cheering us on. So that was really made it a lot easier. I'll put it that way.
Nice. So where is the best place for the Dreamhouse Nation to buy your comic book?
Well, you can get it anywhere. You can get the graphic novel any place. Barnes & Noble, you can get it, order it. You can order it any place. You can order it from your local comic shop. You can get it on Amazon. But you have to, order it through there. And but it's pretty much, I saw it in Walmart on their site the other day. So it's kind of, it's all through Ingram Spark, which is the distributor, and they distribute to everybody. So you can just order it whatever store you go to. If you want to just look it up, they'll ship it out to you.
So who's the Halloween Girl?
Halloween Girl is Charlotte Williams, and she's named Charlotte because I'm a big fan of the indie singer-songwriter Charlotte Martin, who I've been following for years, who I also got to, and I told her about that, and I got her to write a song for the rollout, which is pretty exciting. But she is an 18-year-old girl who got pregnant, and then she's having a tough time being a mom and being a kid. She goes out. She wants to go to this Halloween party. She goes out in her car and gets into a car wreck, which we find out was a deliberate thing later in the book. That someone was out to get her, and she is just kind of like in between about having this son that she's left behind, feeling a lot of guilt about that, had a terrible relationship with her mom. So there's a lot of unfinished business. But in what she finds is she finds a friend named Poe, who's this kind of other supernatural character, and they realize that behind a lot of this stuff, there's a diabolic sect called the Hollow that's trying to undermine their hometown, Crystal Springs, and they kind of take it upon themselves to kind of join the resistance to fight back against that. And apparently, the Hollow have been behind a lot of things that look like they were just accidents and this, that, and the other, because they're trying to basically kind of suck the soul out of the entire town. Basically, the Hollow's thing is don't believe in anything. And so that's really what it's about. It's about getting into people's heads and messing them up that way. So Charlotte and Poe get in there and try and right the wrongs, and Charlotte also tries to, right the wrongs of her own life, in the process. And it's a supernatural adventure series, and it's about friends, and it's about doing the right thing no matter how difficult it is.
So what's your creation process?
Oh, grab a college-like notebook and just start writing whatever's in my head, and usually like writing out like as if I was talking to myself out loud, asking myself questions. Like I'll see things over and over again in my head. They keep coming back, and I'll say, why am I seeing this? What does this mean? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I'll wind up talking to myself for pages and pages, and pretty soon it turns into a story. But it's very exciting for me because I know that if I keep getting these images over and over again over the period of weeks or whatever, it's leading to a story. Now, I never understand what they are. I just sit down and just start to explore them, and then they just kind of show up. But that's what I do. I sit there and fill notebooks and then jump into the script, and usually start with dialogue.
So who are the members of your illustration team?
Oh, we have a great group all over the world. Stephen Mullen, Petro Vaughn, Wanderer Luna, Sharif Mazoid, Eleanor Garofalo, and they're from all over the world: Ireland, Italy, North Africa. I mean, they're Brazil. And they're all very different. And I loved all their styles because they brought a really different point of view without pulling you out of it. They brought something that I could see in their work that was definitely reflective of what I was the story I was trying to tell, and the vibe. I love old 70s, early 70s black and white horror comics from when I was a little kid, and they were creepy as hell. So I really try and bring that vibe to it. And these guys knocked it out of the park. So they were like heaven sent, to be honest with you.
What is Outreach Arts Incorporated?
That is where I basically spent most of my career. I started that company. I started doing outreach work 30 years ago when I was working for a theater company. I would write plays, and then we go into the schools, raise awareness about AIDS and things like that. There would be cancer awareness things for adults. And I really loved doing that kind of work because I could see how it was impacting people and really helping the community, and something I really wanted to do always. And that turned into me starting my own company that turned into a film company called Outreach Arts. And we worked with nonprofits all over the country to raise awareness about health and social issues for many, many, many years. We had a great series called Maple Ave that we did in-house that was very successful. That was on a lot of PBS stations and IFC, and we won an Emmy for that and several nominations. And I retired from that back in 2017. So and then basically started up Mad Shelley Films to explore some things that were a little more for myself, to be honest with you, because I spent so much of my career writing for other groups and other people, which I love doing. But I got to a point where I thought, oh, you know what, you've done that enough. You really need to start doing a little more for yourself. So that's how that all started and how we wound up with the comic, really.
So where's the best place for the nation to find your previous work?
Oh, you can find everything on one site at rtwfilms.com. And everything is there. All the outreach stuff, the Maple Ave stuff, and also the series I was talking about, that Under the Flower stuff. They're there in full. So everything we've done is on that one site.
So tell us a little bit more about the Maple Avenue.
That was something I really felt compelled to do. When I was doing a lot of this work, a lot of groups, I really wanted to do something, for instance, on eating disorders. But a lot of people were, cagey about it, like groups that you would think would be wide open about talking about the issues. And I wanted to be very direct. And there were a lot of walls put up that people, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. Okay. But then I just got really frustrated, and I thought there's a lot of things out there people are not talking about at the time. They are now, but back then they weren't, like teen depression and, eating disorders and a lot of those things, self-injury. And I thought, nobody's talking about these things, and they're not really interested in getting out there with it. And I said, I want to start my own little series, and I'm going to call it Maple Ave, and they're going to be recurring characters. And, I want to get these issues out there because, again, while everything is very out there now in many ways, when I started doing that kind of stuff, 20 years ago, that was not the case. And so that's how Maple Ave got started, and it did really, really well. We were very fortunate. It's kind of like our flagship thing, the series. So it was on like I said, PBS stations. It was, we were featured on IFC. We won a lot of awards for that, which was, very gratifying, including the Emmy. But again, it was really gratifying work. And even the work that we did outside of Maple Ave, we did a lot of problem gambling awareness stuff. That just tons of that. And one of the pieces that we did was shown to Congress, actually, to get funding for vets who were coming back from the war, who were having problems with, who were addicted to gambling and couldn't get out of it, and get funding for those programs. So it's been a really great ride in that respect, but I felt like I'd done everything I could do there.
So tell us a little bit more about the Mad Shelley films.
Well, the Mad Shelley films were, like I said, I lost both my parents within a couple months of each other back in 2014, and I was, didn't know how to grieve, properly. All I do is write. So I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I'm thinking about just doing this one shot, this film, just to kind of get all this out, and I can just get it out of my system. And it's the best way I know how to do it. And she said, sounds like a great idea. So The Halloween Girl was written in the end of 2014. We shot it in 2015. And that was our first Mad Shelley Films project, and one of my favorite experiences. That did really well. And then I couldn't really let the character go. It just kind of wouldn't let me go. So I started to expand Charlotte's world, and it turned into a web series called Under the Flowers, which we did a lot. We shot a lot around here, including in my old hometown, Laurel Springs, New Jersey, where Walt Whitman used to have a summer home and did a lot of his writing out there. So we shot in his old house, and down by the Crystal Springs Park Lake, which again, I grew up around there, beautiful locales, and just terrific stuff. So a lot of hard work, I'll tell you that. But they turned out, we were really blessed in the way that they were received, and how they shook out all around. So that, and then after I did the third series of Under the Flowers, it was like, well, I feel like I've taken, I want to do more, and I can't do it here. And that's how the graphic novel started. So
it sounds like a wide variety of things that you've accomplished over the years.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a flash. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it really has. It's been a long time. It's you're never not moving when you're doing this thing. When you're doing independent work like this, you're always running. Bugs Bunny on first base, second base, third base. So but it's been a lot. But I've had a great crew. I've had a tremendous crew, great people behind me, great actors. In fact, one of our actresses is in the new film Terrifier 2. Lauren Lavera. She helped. One of her earliest projects was with us with Under the Flowers, so she stars in that film now, and Terrifier 2. So it's kind of nice to see, the people who started out with us or whatever doing really well.
That is awesome. So any projects in the works? Any new,
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have. I have written, during the pandemic, I wrote 3 graphic novels that are all Halloween Girl related. The first one obviously is out. Book 1, Promises to Keep. And I have 2 more that are done. And I'm looking to get the second one out next year called Gods and Monsters. And hopefully the following year, I won't say the last one, but the third one. And I'm working on a 4th now. I have some ideas, and I'm trying to get back. And I've just been so busy getting this book out that I haven't been able to focus on it. But I'm starting to get back to that now. So, it's going to be a pretty busy schedule the next couple of years. So hopefully they'll continue to do well.
Sounds great, Richard. Before we let you go, we're on social media, we're on the web. Where can we find out more?
Yeah, Twitter. You can. Twitter's our biggest spot, and we're still under Mad Shelley Films on Twitter, and on Instagram we're Mad Shelley Comics, Facebook Mad Shelley Comics, and that's where you can find us.
That is awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure talking to you, James. Again, thank you so much for having me on. A belated happy Halloween to everybody.
Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom has products in stock and available to take home today. With 5 stores and almost 40 years in business, they are Ohio's appliance experts, and they help you to get the right product at the right price with a huge inventory. You can save 30 to 60% every day on everything from Bosch and Viking to LG, GE, and KitchenAid at unbeatable savings and in stock. Plus, Mattress Kingdom inside Appliance Factory has everything from Tempur-Pedic and Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and DreamCloud mattresses in stock. Stop by any one of Appliance Factory and Mattress Kingdom's 5 Ohio locations today or visit online at appliancefactory.com.
That wraps it up for this week's show. Hope you can join us again next week for this Dream House. This has been James Lewis. Enjoy your weekend.